The door that opened itself. Main story points. A travel vlogger, Mia Carter, enters an abandoned mansion on Raven Hill for a viral video. She is warned, do not open the black door. That same night, the door opens by itself, with no wind and no footsteps. From inside the darkness, a child's voice whispers, "Are you here to bring me out?" Mia discovers a 42-year-old journal from a girl named Lily, but the ink is still fresh. A shadowy child figure appears, claiming she has been trapped behind the door for decades. When Mia tries to escape, the door seals, and Lily takes Mia's place in the real world. The mansion writes a final message on the wood. The door doesn't open from inside. She entered to film a story, but became one. Hey everyone, it's your girl Mia Carter, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're doing something a little different, something a lot of you have been asking for. We're leaving the sunny beaches and bustling cities behind and heading into the shadows. We're in the middle of nowhere, at the foot of a place locals call Raven Hill. And up there, shrouded in mist and legend, is our destination, the infamous Blackwood Manor. I'm sure you've heard the stories. It's been abandoned for over a century, but people around here swear it's not empty. They talk about doors opening and closing on their own, whispers in the hallways, and sometimes it's the sound of a child's voice when no one is there. Locals say people who go up to Raven Hill don't always come back, they just disappear. Now, you all know me. I'm a skeptic. I think it's probably just old pipes, wind whistling through broken windows, and a healthy dose of local superstition. But hey, it makes for a killer story, right? This could be the most epic video yet. So, I tracked down the only person who still looks after the property, an old, weathered caretaker who's probably seen it all. Getting the key wasn't easy. He looked at me with these tired, almost fearful eyes. He told me the legends were more than just stories. He said the house, it has a will of its own. I just smiled, thinking he was playing up the drama for the camera. But then, as he handed me this ancient, rusty key, his whole demeanor changed. He got serious, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. He leaned in close and said, "Do whatever you want in there. Film anything you see. Go into any room you like. But there's one rule. One absolute rule you must not break." I asked him what it was, expecting some old tale about not touching the silverware or something. He shook his head slowly. At the end of the main hall, upstairs, you'll find a single black door. You must not open it, under any circumstances. Of course, I had to ask why. What's so special about one door? Is there treasure behind it? A secret passage, he wouldn't say. He just stared at me, his eyes wide, and said something that has been stuck in my head ever since. He said, because someone is inside. Someone is inside. In a house that's been abandoned for 100 years. I tried to press him for more information, but he just clammed up, shook his head, and walked away, leaving me here with this heavy key and a head full of questions. So, here we are. The sun is starting to set, casting these long, creepy shadows all over the estate. The house looks even more intimidating in person. The windows are like vacant eyes, staring down at me. It's got that classic Gothic horror vibe, you know? Vines crawling up the stone walls, a crumbling porch, and an overwhelming feeling of silence. It's the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's pressing in on you. Honestly, a part of me is starting to get a little creeped out, but the vlogger in me is screaming. This is content gold. It's an abandoned mansion, a local legend of disappearances, and a mysterious locked door with a cryptic warning. What more could we ask for? So, the plan is simple. We're going in. We're going to explore every dusty corner, every cobweb-filled room. We'll see if we can capture any of this supposed paranormal activity on camera. Are the doors really moving on their own? Is there really a child's voice echoing in the halls? Or is it all just a big, elaborate ghost story? And as for that black door, well, you know me. A warning like that is more of an invitation, isn't it? He said not to open it. He said someone is inside. My curiosity is officially through the roof. I have to know what's behind it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's probably just an empty room or a closet full of old junk. The caretaker was definitely just trying to spook me. All right, enough talk. It's time for action. I've got my main camera, my night vision cam, and a bag full of gear. Let's do this. Join me as we step inside Blackwood Manor and uncover the truth behind the legends. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find out who or what to waiting behind that black door. Wish me luck, guys. I think I'm going to need it. Let's go. Ever wonder what really lurks in the shadows when you're alone at night? For Mia, a popular live streamer, that question became terrifyingly real. Tonight, we're diving deep into the chilling tale of the 1103 incident. A broadcast that started like any other, but ended with thousands of viewers witnessing something truly inexplicable. Imagine this. Mia is midstream, her face illuminated by the glow of her monitor, interacting with her chat. The energy is great, the vibe is chill. Behind her, a long, dark hallway stretches into the blackness of her apartment, a familiar backdrop to her regular viewers. But tonight, something is different. At exactly 11:03 p.m., in the corner of her screen, a subtle movement catches her eye. She glances back, a flicker of confusion on her face. The hallway, usually just an empty space, now feels heavy. The air goes still. The usual hum of the house vanishes. An unnatural silence descends, the kind that makes the hairs on your arm stand up. And then it happens. At the far end of the hallway is a single black door. It's always been there, always closed. But now it begins to move. Slowly, deliberately, the door creaks open. Not a sudden swing like a gust of wind, but a controlled, agonizingly slow pull. The hinges tremble, not with rust, but as if resisting an immense, unseen force pulling from the other side. There's no sound, no breeze, just the silent, impossible motion of the door opening into an abyss of pure darkness. Mia's chat, which was just moments ago filled with jokes and emojis, explodes. What was that? Did you guys see that? Mia? The door? The comments fly by in a frantic blur. Her playful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a mask of genuine fear. She grabs her phone, switching on the flashlight. Her hand is shaking, the beam of light trembling as she points it down the hallway. She gets up from her chair, her every movement cautious, her breath held tight in her chest. The thousands of people watching are holding their breath with her. She takes a step forward, then another. The flashlight beam cuts through the gloom, but the darkness beyond the open door seems to swallow the light, revealing nothing. The chat is a waterfall of panic and speculation. Don't go in there. Call the police. Is this a prank? But it's clear from the terror etched on Mia's face that this is no joke. As she gets closer to the doorway, the silence is broken. It's not a loud noise, but something far more unsettling. A voice. It's soft, almost a whisper, and it seems to emanate from the profound blackness within the room. The voice is childlike, yet ancient, and it carries a chilling, sorrowful tone. It asks a simple, terrifying question that echoes in the silent apartment and across the thousands of screens watching. Are you here to bring me out? The words hang in the air, a cold, sharp blade of pure horror. What does it mean? Who is in there? And why is it asking to be brought out? The stream goes wild. Nobody understands the question, but everyone understands the fear. It's a primal, universal dread. The fear of the unknown, of a voice from the dark, of a door that opens on its own. Mia is frozen, her flashlight beam fixed on the empty, black space. The voice doesn't speak again. The silence returns, now heavier, more menacing than before. On screen, we see only Mia's terrified profile and the dark, gaping maw of the doorway. The comments section is a mix of terror, theories, and desperate pleas for Mia to get out of there. Some claim to see a figure in the darkness, others say they heard more whispers. The collective experience amplifies the horror, creating a shared nightmare for everyone watching. What started as a normal live stream has now become a viral phenomenon, a piece of internet horror legend. What was behind that door? Was it a ghost, a trapped entity, or something else entirely? This event, now famously known as the 1103 incident, left more questions than answers. The stream ended abruptly a few minutes later, with Mia backing away slowly before the feed cut to black. She never went back into that apartment. In the days that followed, internet sleuths and paranormal investigators tried to piece together what happened. They analyzed the clip frame by frame, enhanced the audio, and researched the history of the building. Some theories suggested a clever hoax, a masterfully executed piece of performance art. But the raw, unscripted fear in Mia's eyes convinced many that what they saw was real. The trembling hands, the sharp intake of breath, the way her voice caught in her throat, these aren't things that are easily faked, especially live in front of thousands. Others delved into the history of the apartment building, unearthing old stories of a child who vanished from that very unit decades ago, a lonely soul said to still wander the halls. Could the voice have belonged to this lost child? A spirit trapped between worlds, waiting for someone to finally open the door and lead them into the light. The question, "Are you here to bring me out?" takes on a heartbreaking new meaning in this context. It's not a threat, but a plea. A desperate cry for help from a lonely entity stuck in the dark. This interpretation is perhaps even more chilling. It transforms the monster in the dark into a tragic figure. And Mia becomes the unwitting potential savior who is simply too terrified to answer the call. The ambiguity is what makes this story so powerful. It taps into our deepest fears and our most profound sympathies at the same time. The black door represents the ultimate unknown, the boundary between our safe, well-lit world and the infinite, terrifying possibilities that lie just beyond our perception. Mia, and by extension everyone who watched, stood at the precipice of that boundary. The aftermath for Mia was significant. She took a long break from streaming, overwhelmed by the incident and the massive public attention. When she finally returned, it was from a new, undisclosed location. She rarely speaks of that night, and when she does, it's with a haunted look in her eyes. She maintains that what happened was real, and that she can't explain it. The incident changed her content, her perspective, and her life forever. For her viewers, it was a night they would never forget. It was a stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying things aren't the monsters we see, but the voices we hear from the darkness, asking questions we can't possibly answer. It makes you think, doesn't it? What would you have done if a door in your home opened on its own, and a voice called out from the darkness? Would you run? Or would you dare to answer? The story of Mia and the door at 11:03 p.m. serves as a modern-day ghost story, a digital campfire tale for the internet age. It reminds us that even in our hyper-connected world, there are still mysteries that defy explanation. Moments that shatter our sense of security and force us to confront the possibility that we are not alone. The video clip of the incident still circulates online, viewed by millions. Every time someone watches it, they experience that same chill, that same vicarious terror that the original viewers felt. They see the door swing open, they hear the soft, pleading voice, and they are left to wonder what was waiting in the dark. It's a perfect storm of suspense, mystery, and genuine human emotion that has cemented its place in internet lore. So, next time you're up late and you hear a strange noise in your house, maybe you'll think of Mia. Maybe you'll glance nervously at the darkest corner of the room, at the closed doors lining your hallway, and you'll wonder what might be waiting on the other side. And you'll hope you never hear a voice asking to be let out. What are your theories about the 1103 incident? Do you think it was a real paranormal event, an elaborate prank, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I read every single one, and I'm fascinated to hear what you all think. This is one of those stories that sticks with you, a chilling reminder of the unknown. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into one of the internet's most terrifying mysteries. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more strange and unsettling stories, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next investigation. Until then, stay safe and maybe keep a light on. The world outside the doorway vanished, swallowed by an encroaching, unnatural darkness. It was as if Mia had stepped through a veil, leaving the familiar realm of rustling leaves and distant city hums for a place that held its breath. The air inside was heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else. Something old and forgotten, like dust from a tomb disturbed after centuries of stillness. The temperature dropped several degrees, a sudden biting cold that seeped through her jacket and raised goosebumps on her arms. Before her, a narrow staircase descended into the gloom. The steps were made of rough-hewn stone, worn smooth in the center by the passage of countless feet. They disappeared into a pool of shadow so absolute it seemed to drink the meager light filtering in from the open door behind her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the oppressive silence. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee this place, and never look back. The rational part of her mind, the part that had guided her through years of methodical research and sensible decisions, was in full retreat. But something else held her rooted to the spot. It was a pull, an invisible current tugging at the edges of her curiosity, whispering of secrets that lay buried in the darkness below. It was the same inexplicable force that had led her to this derelict mansion on the edge of town. A place whispered about in local legends, a place most people were smart enough to avoid. She took a hesitant step forward, her boot scuffing against the top stone. The sound was swallowed by the silence, leaving no echo. She strained her ears, listening for any sign of life, any clue as to what awaited her. But there was nothing. Only the sound of her own ragged breathing and the frantic thumping of her own heart. Hesitantly, she reached into her pocket, her fingers fumbling for the small, powerful flashlight she always carried. Its beam cut a clean white cone through the darkness, illuminating the top few steps. The stone was slick, with a thin film of moisture that glistened under the light. The walls on either side were bare rock, cold and unforgiving to the touch. They seemed to close in on her, the narrow passage feeling more like a throat than a staircase. And then she heard it. A sound from below. Faint at first, almost imperceptible. She froze, her breath catching in her throat, and clicked off her flashlight, plunging herself back into near total darkness. She listened, every nerve ending tingling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The sound came again, clearer this time. Footsteps, soft footsteps echoing upward from the depths. They weren't frantic or hurried. They were slow, heavy. Each step was deliberate, measured as if the person making them was savoring the journey, or perhaps counting down to a final, inevitable meeting. Thump, pause, thump, pause. The rhythm was hypnotic, a slow, steady march that seemed to vibrate through the very stone beneath her feet. It was the sound of something approaching, something climbing the stairs towards her. Mia's mind raced, trying to conjure a rational explanation. A caretaker? A squatter? Another urban explorer who had gotten here first? But none of those felt right. The weight of the footsteps, the deliberate, almost predatory slowness of them. It didn't feel human. It felt ancient, purposeful. The air grew colder still, and the scent of decay intensified, now laced with a faint, cloying sweetness, like rotting flowers. The footsteps were closer now. Thump, thump, thump. Thump, thump. She could almost picture the source. A heavy boot, a dragging limb. The sound echoed in the confined space, seeming to come from all directions at once, disorienting her, trapping her in a web of sound and shadow. She could feel the pressure building in her ears, the silence between each footfall stretching into an eternity of suspense. Panic began to set in, a cold wave washing over her. Her hand tightened on her flashlight, her knuckles white. She had to do something, say something. Break the terrifying spell of those approaching steps. She couldn't just stand here and wait for whatever it was to emerge from the darkness. Taking a shaky breath, she forced her voice out, the words feeling clumsy and loud in the suffocating quiet. Her call echoed down the stairwell, a fragile human sound against the ancient stone. "Who's there?" The words hung in the air, a challenge thrown into the abyss. For a moment, there was only silence. The footsteps stopped. The sudden absence of the rhythmic thudding was somehow more terrifying than the sound itself. It was a listening silence, a waiting silence. Mia held her breath, her ears straining, her body tensed for a fight or flight she knew she couldn't win. Did they hear her? Was it a person after all, startled by her voice? She was about to call out again, perhaps with more force, when a new sound drifted up from the darkness. It wasn't the sound of footsteps. It was a voice that should not have been there. A voice that defied all logic and reason. It was the voice of a child. Clear, soft, and chillingly calm, it sliced through the silence with unnerving precision. The words it spoke were not a question, not a threat, but a simple, terrifying statement of fact. A statement that confirmed Mia's deepest, most primal fears. The child's voice answered, its tone devoid of any emotion, yet filled with an ancient patience. "I've been waiting." The words wrapped around Mia like a shroud. Waiting? For how long? And for what? The voice wasn't angry or menacing. It was just patient, as if it had been sitting in the dark at the bottom of those stairs for days or years or centuries, simply waiting for her to arrive. The innocence of the child's tone was a horrifying contrast to the sinister weight of the words. It implied a foreknowledge, a destiny that Mia had just walked into. She was not an intruder. She was an expected guest. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. She hadn't found this place. This place had been waiting for her. The footsteps had not been a random occurrence. They had been a summons. Her blood ran cold. The urge to flee was now an overwhelming physical need. Her muscles screamed to turn, to bolt up the stairs and burst back into the dying light of the afternoon. But her feet were leaden, rooted to the spot by a force beyond her comprehension. She was paralyzed, caught in the gaze of something unseen, held captive by a child's simple, patient words. The darkness below seemed to pulse, to breathe. It was no longer just an absence of light. It was a presence. A living, breathing entity that had been waiting in the heart of this house. She finally managed to raise her flashlight, her hand trembling so violently that the beam of light danced and stuttered across the stone walls. She pointed it down the stairs, trying to pierce the suffocating blackness where the voice had originated. The light cut through the gloom, but it revealed nothing. The stairs continued their descent into an impenetrable void. There was no child, no figure, nothing to explain the voice or the footsteps. It was as if the source had simply vanished, or perhaps had never been physically there at all. The absence of a visible threat was even more terrifying. It meant she was dealing with something that didn't play by the rules of the physical world. The silence returned, deeper and more profound than before. The air was thick with unspoken promises and ancient secrets. Mia stood on the threshold between two worlds, the known and the unknown, the living and something else. The child's voice echoed in her mind, not as a memory, but as a lingering presence. "I've been waiting." It was an invitation and a death sentence, all in one. And as she stood there, trembling in the cold, oppressive dark, she knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that she had to go down. Her curiosity, the very thing that had brought her here, had now become a chain, pulling her forward, step by step, into the waiting darkness. The story of this house was not one she could simply walk away from. She was a part of it now. The next chapter was about to begin, whether she wanted it to or not. Down in the darkness, something was waiting, and it knew her name. The descent was inevitable. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. See you in the next chapter. In the damp, musty air of the basement, a single bare bulb cast long, dancing shadows that seemed to writhe in the corners of my vision. Dust motes swirled in the dim light like tiny, restless spirits. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, each beat echoing the heavy thud of the door I'd just heard lock behind me. Panic, cold and sharp, was beginning to snake its way up my spine. I had to find a way out. My eyes scanned the cluttered space, a graveyard of forgotten things. Piles of old newspapers, their headlines faded into yellowed obscurity. Broken furniture draped in ghostly white sheets. A child's tricycle, rusted and forlorn, its front wheel askew. It was a place where memories came to die. And then I saw it. Perched precariously on the edge of a worn velvet armchair, almost as if it had been left there for me to find, was a small, leather-bound journal. It was old, the leather cracked and weathered by time, but it had a certain presence. It felt important. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for it, the cool leather a strange comfort against my clammy skin. A simple brass clasp held it shut. With a click that sounded deafeningly loud in the oppressive silence, I opened it. The pages were brittle, the color of old ivory. The first page was filled with elegant, looping handwriting. The ink faded to a soft brown. "My name is Lily." The words were simple, yet they sent a shiver down my spine. Who was Lily? Was she the one who lived in this house before? I kept reading, my curiosity overriding my fear, just for a moment. "I've been here for 42 years. 42 years. The number hung in the air, heavy and impossible. How could someone be trapped in a basement for 42 years? Was this some kind of sick joke? A story left behind by a previous owner with a dark sense of humor. I tried to rationalize it, to dismiss it, but a knot of dread was tightening in my stomach. The house had felt strange from the moment I stepped inside. But this was something else entirely. This felt personal. I turned the page, and then another, and another. The journal was filled with entries, a day-by-day account of a life lived in darkness. Lily wrote about the silence, the cold, the creeping despair. She wrote about her memories of the sun, of green grass and blue skies. Memories that were slowly fading, like old photographs. She described the sounds from upstairs footsteps, laughter, life going on without her. A constant, a painful reminder of the world she had lost. Her handwriting grew more erratic as the years passed, the graceful loops becoming jagged slashes of ink. Her hope, once a flickering candle, was being slowly, methodically extinguished. I could feel her loneliness, her desperation seeping from the pages, wrapping around me like a shroud. The entries became shorter, more fragmented. Sometimes just a single word: cold, hungry, alone. It was a chronicle of a soul slowly unraveling. I felt a profound sadness for this woman, this Lily, whose entire existence had been reduced to these desperate scribbles in a dusty journal. How could her family, her friends, not have looked for her? How could a person simply vanish into their own basement? The questions swirled in my head, each one more disturbing than the last. I was holding the ghost of a life in my hands, a life that had unfolded and ended in this very room. The thought made the air feel thick, hard to breathe. I was standing in her tomb. My fingers, slick with nervous sweat, fumbled as I turned to the very last page. There were only a few words written there, but they stood out, stark and terrifying. The handwriting was the same as the first page, the same elegant script, but the ink was different. It was a deep, glossy black, and it looked wet. It looked fresh, as if it had been written just moments ago. My breath caught in my throat. I leaned closer, my nose almost touching the page, my mind refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. The ink glistened under the dim light of the bulb, not yet fully absorbed by the ancient paper. And then I read the words. A simple, chilling sentence that slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. The door doesn't open from the inside. My blood ran cold. I froze, the journal still clutched in my hand, my gaze locked on those fresh, wet words. The door doesn't open from the inside. The ink looked as if it had been written minutes ago. Minutes. My mind raced, trying to connect the impossible dots. 42 years. Fresh ink. Lily, a name that now felt like a curse. A low, guttural creak echoed from the far corner of the basement. A sound like old bones shifting. I slowly lifted my head, my eyes peering into the oppressive darkness beyond the small circle of light. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. The silence was no longer empty. I wasn't alone. And the story in the journal wasn't over. It was just beginning. And now, it was my story too. The final page wasn't an ending. It was a welcome. Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you're just joining us, you might want to go back and catch up on the previous chapters. Things are about to get intense. For the rest of you, let's dive right back into the darkness. Mia stood there, frozen, the old wooden door still creaking on its hinges behind her. Her breath plumed in front of her, visible in the single, swaying bulb that cast long, dancing shadows across the cellar. The light flickered erratically, once, twice, threatening to plunge her into complete blackness. Each time it strobed, the cellar seemed to rearrange itself, the piles of forgotten junk shifting like sleeping beasts. Dust motes, thick as a swarm of insects, swirled in the beam of her flashlight, which trembled in her hand. She tried to swallow, but her throat was desert dry. Every instinct screamed at her to turn, to run up the stairs and never look back. But she couldn't move. Her feet were rooted to the damp concrete floor, held in place by a force she couldn't see but could feel pressing in from all sides. The musty smell of earth and decay was suddenly overpowered by something else. Something cloyingly sweet, like wilted flowers left on a grave. Then she saw it. A movement in the deepest corner of the basement, just beyond the reach of the flickering bulb. A small silhouette detached itself from the oppressive shadows. It was slow, deliberate, each step making no sound on the dusty floor. As it moved into the weak pool of light, her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might break. It was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Her hair was a tangled, dark mess, falling over a face pale as bone china. Her eyes were the most terrifying part. They were wide and dark, but utterly empty, like two black holes that drank the light and offered nothing in return. She wore a simple, old-fashioned dress, the fabric faded and torn at the hem and sleeves, smudged with dirt as if she'd been playing in the earth for a very, very long time. The girl stopped just a few feet away from Mia. The cold air seemed to radiate from her, a palpable wave of sorrow and malice. For a moment that stretched into an eternity. There was only the sound of the light bulb humming and Mia's own ragged breathing. Then the girl's lips, pale and thin, parted slightly. A voice, no louder than a whisper, slithered through the silence. It was a child's voice, yet it held an ancient weariness, a chilling resonance that seemed to echo from the very walls. "You open the door?" she whispered, the words hanging in the frigid air. "So now, I can come out." A tremor of pure terror shot through Mia. This was her. This was Lily. The name screamed in her mind, a frantic alarm she couldn't silence. This was the entity from the journal, the presence that had haunted this house for decades. she had done exactly what the warnings had pleaded against. She had opened the door. Mia took a stumbling step back, her heel catching on an uneven patch of floor. She nearly fell, catching her balance at the last second. What do you want?" Her voice was a pathetic squeak, a far cry from the brave investigator she had pretended to be just moments before. The girl, Lily, didn't move, but a faint, unsettling smile touched the corners of her mouth. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of cold satisfaction, of a predator cornering its prey. The emptiness in her eyes seemed to deepen, drawing Mia in. "A new door," Lily whispered, her voice seeming to come from everywhere at once. The smile widened, showing a glimpse of teeth. "For you." As she spoke the last two words, the single light bulb above them didn't just flicker this time, it exploded. A sharp pop, a shower of glass, and then absolute, suffocating darkness. Mia screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure panic. She fumbled wildly for her flashlight, her fingers clumsy and numb. She clicked the button, but nothing happened. She clicked it again and again, the cheap plastic mechanism mocking her desperation. The cold intensified, wrapping around her like a wet shroud. She could feel a presence right in front of her, so close she could almost feel the chill of its breath on her skin, smelled that sickeningly sweet scent of decay. She backed away blindly, her hands outstretched, hitting a rough stone wall. She was trapped. A tiny, cold hand suddenly brushed against her arm. Mia shrieked and recoiled, scrambling sideways along the wall. The touch was like ice, burning her skin, leaving a trail of goosebumps in its wake. "Don't be scared," Lily's voice whispered, this time directly beside her ear. She ran, her arms windmilling, expecting to collide with the wall or trip over a pile of junk at any second. Behind her, a soft, childish giggle echoed through the darkness. It was a sound that should have been innocent, but here, in this cold, lightless tomb, it was the most terrifying sound Mia had ever heard. It wasn't a sound of joy. It was the sound of cruel amusement, of a game that had only just begun. Her foot hit the bottom step of the wooden staircase. Relief, sharp and fierce, flooded her. She scrambled up the stairs on her hands and knees, not daring to look back. The wood groaned under her weight. She could feel the darkness of the basement clinging to her, trying to pull her back down. The giggling followed her, getting fainter but never fully disappearing, a constant, chilling reminder of what she had unleashed. She burst through the doorway into the kitchen, slamming the basement door shut behind her. Her hand fumbled for the lock, a heavy iron bolt. She shot it home with a loud, metallic clank. She leaned against the door, her entire body trembling uncontrollably, gasping for breath. The warm air of the house felt like a blessing, a stark contrast to the tomb-like cold below. For a moment, there was silence. Blessed, wonderful silence. Just the sound of her own frantic heartbeat. Maybe she was safe. Maybe the door and the lock would hold. Then, a soft, rhythmic sound started. Tap, tap. It was coming from the other side of the basement door. A small, persistent tapping. A child's fingernail, dragging slowly, deliberately, across the wood. The sound was quiet, but it cut through the silence of the house, drilling directly into Mia's sanity. The tapping stopped. The silence that followed was even worse. Mia held her breath, listening. And then, Lily's whisper, muffled but perfectly clear, came right through the solid wood of the door. "You can't lock me in again. You opened my door. Now I get to open yours." A slow, deliberate scratching sound began. The noise of something sharp being dragged down the length of the door, etching a line in the wood from the other side. Mia stared in horror as the sound moved lower and lower and lower until it was near the floor. And then, from the small gap between the bottom of the door and the kitchen floor, a single, pale, child-sized finger poked through, wriggling in the dim light of the kitchen. What happens when there are no more doors to hide behind? We'll find out in the next chapter. Thank you so much for watching. If your heart is pounding as hard as mine is, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you are not going to want to miss what happens next. See you in the next one. Your name is Mia. You live for the adrenaline rush of uncovering forgotten places, capturing their ghostly beauty with your camera. You've explored crumbling factories and abandoned asylums, but you've never felt true fear. Not yet. It's been abandoned for decades, swallowed by ivy and shadows, its windows like vacant eyes. The locals tell stories of the family who lived there, of strange disappearances, and of a presence that never left. For you, it's the ultimate challenge, the perfect subject. You grab your camera, your flashlight, and head out, ignoring the warnings. You think you're just going to take some photos. You're wrong. The moment you step onto the property, a heavy silence falls. The air grows thick, cold. The grand front door is locked, but you find a small, grimy window around the back. You pry it open and slip inside. The interior is a mausoleum of dust and decay. Furniture is draped in white sheets like slumbering ghosts. Moonlight filters through the grimy windows, painting long, skeletal shadows on the walls. Your heart pounds with excitement, not fear. You start snapping photos, capturing the haunting elegance of the decaying mansion. You explore the grand ballroom, the dusty library, the master bedroom with its canopy bed torn to shreds. Every room tells a story, but you feel like you're only scratching the surface. You feel an irresistible pull, a silent invitation to go deeper. To the one place you know you shouldn't go. The basement. The door to the basement is at the end of a long, dark hallway. It's heavy oak with a tarnished brass handle. As you reach for it, a chill runs down your spine. This feels different. This feels wrong. But you push the feeling aside. You're Mia, the fearless explorer. You turn the handle. The door groans open, revealing a set of steep stone steps leading down into absolute blackness. You switch on your powerful flashlight, its beam cutting a sharp cone through the darkness. The air that rises from below is stale and smells of damp earth and something else, something metallic and unpleasant. You take a deep breath and start your descent. The stone steps are slick with moisture. Each step down feels like you're sinking further away from the world you know. The basement is larger than you expected. It's a labyrinth of stone archways and damp, narrow passages. Your flashlight beam dances across old wine racks, broken crates, and cobwebs as thick as cotton. You can hear the drip, drip, drip of water somewhere in the darkness, a sound that echoes and seems to count down the seconds. You feel a pressure in your ears, a sense of being watched by unseen eyes. The excitement you felt upstairs has vanished, replaced by a growing dread. You try to focus on your camera to see this place through the lens. It's a trick you use to distance yourself, to make the fear manageable. You frame a shot of a strange circular pattern carved into the far stone wall. As you focus, the camera's autofocus light flickers and dies. You try again. Nothing. The screen goes black. The battery is dead. That's impossible. You charged it fully before you left. A wave of panic hits you. Your camera is your shield, your connection to the real world. Without it, you're just a girl, alone in a dark, terrifying basement. You fumble in your backpack for spare batteries, your hands shaking. You can't find them. You must have left them in the car. The dripping sound seems louder now, closer. You feel a cold draft on the back of your neck. You spin around, swinging your flashlight beam wildly. There's nothing there. Just shadows that seem to twist and writhe at the edge of the light. You have to get out. Now, you turn and start moving back the way you came, but the basement seems to have rearranged itself. The passage you came through is gone. You're faced with a solid stone wall. Your heart hammers against your ribs. "Okay, Mia, calm down," you whisper, your voice trembling. Don't panic. You shine your light around, desperately searching for the stairs. You move through one archway, then another, but every path leads to a dead end. You're trapped. You're lost. The silence is broken by a new sound, soft, scraping noise. It's coming from somewhere in the darkness ahead. It sounds like fingernails dragging across stone. You freeze, holding your breath. The scraping stops. The scraping sound starts again, closer this time. You back away, stumbling over something on the floor. Your flashlight beam falls on it. As you stare at it, it begins to rock, slowly at first, then faster and faster, creaking rhythmically in the oppressive silence. You scream and run, blindly, desperately. You don't care where you're going, only that you get away from that sound. The stairs, relief floods through you, so potent it almost makes you weak. You scramble towards them, but in your haste, your foot slips on the damp stone. You cry out as you fall, your camera flying from your grasp. It clatters down the steps and lands with a sickening crunch on the floor. You don't care. You pull yourself up, ignoring the pain in your knee, and bolt up the stairs. You burst out of the basement and into the hallway, slamming the heavy oak door shut behind you. You lean against it, gasping for air, your body trembling uncontrollably. You're safe, you're out. The silence of the house feels different now. It's no longer peaceful, it's menacing. You wait, listening, expecting something to slam against the door from the other side. But there's nothing, only silence. Then, with a slow, deliberate groan, the basement door swings open behind you. All by itself, your heart stops. You force yourself to turn, to look. Inside the dark doorway, at the bottom of the stairs, lies your broken camera. You remember dropping it, but something is wrong. The screen, which should be shattered and dark, is glowing. It's on. You take a hesitant step closer, then another, peering down into the darkness. The camera screen is displaying a live video feed, showing the basement. And in the center of the frame, bathed in the faint glow of the screen, is a figure. It's you. The camera is showing you, Mia, still trapped down there in the basement, looking up the stairs with an expression of pure terror. But you're not in the basement. You're standing right here, in the hallway, looking down at the camera. Your mind struggles to make sense of the impossible image. How can you be in two places at once? As you stare, frozen in disbelief, a cold breath tickles your ear. A voice, the same childlike whisper from the basement, speaks right behind you. It's soft, clear, and filled with a chilling gratitude. It says, "Thank you for letting me out." And in that moment, You understand. You didn't escape the basement. You just traded places. Thanks for watching, everyone. What a terrifying thought, right? Let me know what you think happened to the real Mia in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. The old house stood on a hill overlooking the town, a skeletal silhouette against the perpetually gray sky. They called it the Blackwood Manor, and local legends said it was a place where souls got lost. For Mia, a paranormal investigator with a healthy dose of skepticism, it was the perfect location for her next big YouTube video. She'd heard all the stories, the whispers in the walls, the phantom footsteps, the infamous black door in the basement that supposedly never opened. She figured it was just an old sealed-off entrance, perfect for building suspense. Armed with her EMF meter, a thermal camera, and a head-mounted cam, Mia stepped across the threshold. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of dust and decay. As she explored the decaying grandeur of the manor, her equipment remained stubbornly silent. No EMF spikes, no cold spots, nothing. "Well, Blackwood Manor," she said to her camera, a playful grin on her face. "You're not living up to the hype." But as she descended the creaking stairs into the basement, a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature crawled up her spine. And there it was, the black door. It was exactly as described, made of a dark, almost obsidian-like wood, with no handle, no hinges, no visible way to open it. Carved into the center were faint, elegant letters that read, "Find the key, free the keeper." Mia ran her fingers over the inscription. The key, the keeper, ... double quotes, she mused. Sounds like a riddle. See if we can solve it. She began to search the cluttered basement. Old furniture draped in white sheets stood like silent mourners. Cobwebs hung like tattered lace. As she sifted through a dusty crate of old books, her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. It was a small, ornate iron key, shaped like a twisted tree branch. "Bingo," she whispered, her heart starting to beat a little faster. This was getting interesting. She walked back to the door, the key feeling unnaturally heavy in her hand. There was no keyhole. Confused, she examined the door again, pressing against the wood. Her hand passed right through it, as if the door were made of smoke. Startled, she pulled back, then cautiously pushed again. Her entire arm went through. It was a portal. A cold, unnerving energy radiated from the other side. A mix of fear and professional curiosity surged through her. This was the kind of evidence paranormal investigators dreamed of. Taking a deep breath, she clutched her camera and the key and stepped through the black door. The world on the other side was a disorienting void of gray mist. The air was still and silent. In the distance, she saw a faint light. As she walked towards it, the mist began to thin, revealing a single solitary tree, identical in shape to the iron key she held. Beneath the tree, a young girl sat with her back to Mia, hugging her knees. She wore a simple white dress, and her long, dark hair fell over her shoulders. "Hello," Mia called out, her voice sounding small in the vast emptiness. The girl didn't move. Mia approached cautiously. "Are you okay? What is this place?" The girl slowly turned her head. Her face was pale, her eyes wide and filled with a profound sadness that seemed ancient. "You have the key," she said, her voice a soft, echoing whisper. "Does that mean ... you're the new keeper?" Mia frowned. "Keeper? I don't understand. I just found this key. I thought it would open the door." The girl shook her head slowly. "The door doesn't lock anyone out," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "It locks the keeper in. I'm the keeper. My name is Lily." A wave of unease washed over Mia. "You're trapped here?" Lily nodded. "For a long, long time. I was like you once, curious. I found the door, found the key, and I took the keeper's place." Mia's blood ran cold. Took her place. What do you mean? Lily's sad eyes met hers. The key doesn't open the door. It chooses the next guardian. To free the current one, someone new must take their place. Willingly, Mia backed away, shaking her head. No, no, that's not possible. I'm not staying here. Lily's expression didn't change, but you came through the door. You brought the key. You have to choose. Either you take my place and I go free, or we both stay here forever. Panic began to set in. This wasn't a game. This wasn't a ghost hunt. This was real. There has to be another way, Mia pleaded. You're just a girl. How could you be a keeper? A faint, bitter smile touched Lily's lips. I was a girl. Now I'm just a part of this place. The door needs a guardian, someone to keep, ... It from getting out, she gestured vaguely into the swirling gray mist behind her. A low, guttural growl echoed from the distance, a sound that vibrated deep in Mia's bones and filled her with primal fear. What is that? Mia whispered, her eyes wide. The reason the door exists, Lily said. The reason there must always be a keeper. The growl grew louder, closer. The ground began to tremble. Mia's skepticism had completely evaporated, replaced by sheer terror. Okay. She stammered. How do I do it? How do I take your place? Lily stood up, her movements graceful and slow. You must give me the key, and you must say the words. I accept the burden. I will be the keeper. Mia looked at the iron key in her hand, then at the young girl who had been trapped for who knows how long. She thought of the monstrous sound in the mist. Could she condemn this child to stay here with that thing? Could she condemn herself? Her mind raced. Maybe if Lily was freed, she could get help. Maybe she could tell people what happened, find a way to break the cycle. It was a long shot, but it was the only hope she had. With a trembling hand, she held out the key to Lily. I accept the burden. Mia choked out, the words feeling like poison on her tongue. I will be the keeper. As Lily's small, cold fingers closed around the key, a brilliant white light erupted from her. It was blinding, overwhelming. Mia shielded her eyes. When the light faded, she felt a strange lightness, as if a great weight had been lifted. But she was still in the gray, misty place. She looked up. Lily was gone. In her place stood Mia, or rather a perfect copy of herself. The copy smiled, a wide, genuine smile that Mia hadn't seen on her own face in what felt like an eternity. Thank you, said the copy, her voice now Mia's own. It then turned and ran back towards the shimmering outline of the black door. Wait, Mia cried, her voice now a soft, echoing whisper, just like Lily's had been. Wait for me. She tried to run, but her feet felt rooted to the spot. She watched helplessly as her own body stepped back through the portal, back into the basement of Blackwood Manor. On the other side, Mia knew. Mia turned around. The girl, Lily, was now in Mia's body. Her expression was calm, almost relieved. I'm free now, she said with Mia's voice. From the gray void, the real Mia screamed, her voice barely a whisper in the real world. Don T let her close it. A scraping sound echoed from the other side. Mia, the true Mia, pounded on the non-existent door with spectral hands. And then she saw it. New writing was burning itself into the dark wood of the tree in front of her. The door doesn't open from inside. A new soul was trapped. A new guardian was chosen. The cycle continues. And from the swirling gray mists behind her, the monstrous growl began to get closer. She was no longer an investigator. She was the keeper, and she was utterly alone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like, comment with your theories, and subscribe for more journeys into the unknown. Stay curious and stay safe. Ever heard of Blackwood Manor? It's that creepy abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town that everyone whispers about. For years, locals have told stories of strange lights, disembodied screams, and ghostly figures seen in its windows. It was the kind of place that dared you to enter, a local legend shrouded in mystery and fear. But for Clara, a young and ambitious paranormal investigator, it was the perfect subject for her next big documentary. Clara had a popular YouTube channel dedicated to exploring haunted locations. She was known for her bravery, her high-tech gear, and her knack for capturing unexplainable phenomena on camera. For her, Blackwood Manor wasn't just another haunted house. It was the ultimate challenge, the story that could make her career. She spent weeks researching its dark history, learning about the tragic deaths, the sudden disappearances, and the chilling tales passed down through generations. She was convinced that the manor held real, tangible evidence of the afterlife. On a cold October night, Clara and her small crew arrived at the gates of Blackwood Manor. The air was heavy, and a sense of dread seemed to seep from the decaying walls of the house. Undeterred, they set up their equipment: night vision cameras, EMF detectors, and audio recorders. As they ventured inside, the temperature dropped dramatically. Doors slammed shut on their own, and faint whispers echoed through the dusty corridors. Clara's excitement grew with every strange occurrence. This was exactly what she came for. The night wore on, and the activity intensified. They captured clear electronic voice phenomena, orbs of light dancing on camera, and even the faint image of a woman in a Victorian dress at the top of the grand staircase. Clara, feeling bolder, decided to conduct a solo investigation in the master bedroom, the rumored epicenter of the paranormal activity. She set up a single camera, sat in the middle of the room, and began asking questions into the darkness. But then, everything went silent. The crew, monitoring from their base camp outside, lost all communication with her. Her camera feed flickered and died. Panicked, they rushed back into the manor, calling her name. Kata searched every room, every dark corner, but Clara was gone. All that remained was her camera, lying on the floor of the master bedroom. When they reviewed the final moments of the footage, they were horrified. Just before the camera cut out, a shadowy figure could be seen lunging towards her from the corner of the room. The last sound recorded was her terrified scream. The police were called, and an extensive search was conducted, but Clara was never found. The only evidence of her final moments was the chilling footage on her camera. Her disappearance became the most terrifying chapter in the lore of Blackwood Manor. She went to film a haunted house and became part of its history.